Welcome back to House Education on February 25. The committee is now going to hear from our colleague in the Senate. They were nice enough to invite me down to present what I had come up with, and I thought we should return the favor and have Senator Bongartz come up and talk to us about his proposal. So we all have sort of a good understanding of where the two committees might be at this time and what they're discussing. So for the next half hour or so, we've got the opportunity to hear from the author himself and get a better understanding of what's on the table there. Senator Bongartz, the floor is yours. Thank you for making the time for us and welcome.
Sure. Thanks for having me. This is a nice room. I was just a little tight. So my committee has heard, as you have, we've heard a lot of testimony and a lot of testimony from rural Vermont, both schools that we visited before the session started and then since. And the committee's sense is, I believe, that we need to have SUs included in the model. And so what we're really trying to do is make the units larger than they are now in most instances to gain efficiencies. They're almost big enough to be their own both seats in some instances. But as we're doing it, try to reduce the number of SUs, larger SUs and SDs by about half, maybe even a little bit more than half. And then within each of those, reduce the number of districts by more than half. So in order to move much closer to, we're also thinking about a model onto which the foundation formula can be set. And so gaining efficiencies, gaining larger units. And it's really not much more complicated than I just said. Larger units, fewer SUs and fewer SDs, half and half. And then districts within the SUs reduced by more than half. So that's what we're trying to achieve with the map.
Would it create SUs where none exists?
I'm not sure if every one of these are just basically areas of the state where we heard that that districts wanted the ability to remain, to have a voice, combination of that and parts of the state where the tuition program, for instance, the Islands in Essex County talked about it as being critical to their ability to function. I'm not sure whether I know that I forget where an SD got incorporated, little tiny SD got incorporated into one of these SUs.
And so
I should start by saying this was also the same as what you said at the beginning, and I've said this today when I introduced it. This by definition can't be right because I kind of did it. And so it's we're having some testimony on Thursday from people just asking about tweaks to the boundaries. If this town should be there, this town not there. So I did the same thing of getting something on the table to get the discussion started.
I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
What's the large gray area over by Berlin?
That's an area of a lot of SDs.
Okay.
And the goal there is, rather than try to set the boundaries for those SDs, give 2 years for those SDs to merge and reduce the number of SDs in that area from about 23 to 12.
How does that happen?
Voluntary merger for the first couple of years, and if not, the board do it.
If not, what?
The board.
The state board.
Yeah, state board of that.
Decide who merges.
Yeah.
So
Anyway,
could you just tell a little bit more about this 2-year window?
So,
And does that cover all of the new districts?
well, the little bit of
maybe if you take some time to explain sort of the language behind the map, that would be very helpful.
So the SU boundaries would be set in statute. But within those SUs, glad you said that, The idea would be to reduce, not SU by SU necessarily. The goal is to reduce the number of districts within those SUs down to less than half of what it is now. The language is 50%. So there will be a little bit of, hopefully, districts within those SUs, and I'll get to your question about the SDs. Districts within those SUs will not want to wait and have somebody do it. They'll look carefully and try to figure out a way to merge in a way that makes sense to them. For instance, an area where we are, we've got three little districts that are all non-operating: Stratton, Winhall, and Sandgate. They should merge. And they're
I don't know my geography all that well. Are they contiguous?
no, not contiguous, but they don't have to be, especially if it's non-operating. But hopefully districts within those SUs will look and try to find a dance partner. And if not, because they'll know that if they don't do it, the state board's going to do it. They get the number down to 50%. The same thing with the SDs in that big gray area. So it's 2 years to do it voluntarily. It's sort of a hybrid. It's as the task force, and a lot of people have talked about having it happen voluntarily. So we left that window open, but then recognized that in order for the foundation formula to work, we need to get to somewhat larger districts.
So just to sum up here, let's just say that the lines were perfect here. These would become all SUs, although the gray area is undefined. Currently, that would remain SDs.
Yep.
That in order to sort of achieve efficiencies of fewer SDs within these SUs, you would look for voluntary SD mergers within them.
District mergers.
Yeah, SDs. Yeah. Contiguous or not. And then if sort of like nobody gets around to any of that, it's the state board in 2 years forcing it, sort of as we did at the tail end of Act 46. Is that right?
The idea is to try to get it lined up for Act 46 coming online. That might take a little bit of adjustment too, but this did anticipate some sort of a something short-term to hold down the rate of increase. Then when Act 46 comes online, have this ready. Try to line them up.
So on that, if we were to look at your area, which is the tan bottom left, that would be basically one superintendent, one central office, and ultimately overseeing how many school districts and how many towns would that end up being?
How many towns, I don't know. How many districts, I can probably figure out.
It's right on there.
Now, if they didn't merge, a lot of them merge.
Number of towns would stay the same, but your number of school districts could.
That's kind of him going up,
Yeah,
passed away.
so within, is it, when we're talking about giving the voluntary and the set goal, like within SUs of about half, reducing about half, is that per SU or is that total?
Statewide.
Like some SU could not hit that goal, but others could make up for it.
Yep, theoretically. Yep. Although I also think we'll find that with the foundational formula, there's going to be a lot of pressure on districts to merge on their own. But didn't try to do this SU by SU. That we want to get the number of districts down.
I think one of the challenges we hear is the complexity of now it would be even larger SUs and sort of one central office overseeing, essentially separate contracts, separate everything for each district. And now over a pretty large geographic area. Obviously, one of my big concerns with SUs, among other things, is increasingly a small pool of highly qualified applicants to be superintendents are veering away from the time commitment and complexity of overseeing SU. Because they have to spend so much time on board management rather than on educational leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that. I mean, some of the board management could be parceled out to the next, the other people on the team. The superintendent doesn't have to go to every meeting. Other people can do that. And there's no reason it would take more people to do this than we have now. And hopefully there's the efficiencies gained by, especially within the world of special ed, for instance, and specialized services that you could have with a larger area.
Do you foresee, or does your language include any sort of increases in the sort of powers and duties of an SU board?
Now, but we've been thinking about that because they're creatures of statute. So that's a possibility.
I mean, an SU board though is, you have to be careful just because it's, let's say, non-democratically elected board that does not have the power to tax or enter contracts.
Would that be a representative board, like each school district sending a board to the SU board?
All different.
But yes, essentially it is, the way most places are set up, you send one or two people from your board to the SU board. So you have tiny districts and large districts sending the same number of people to an SU board and therefore making it sort of unrepresentative.
Although they're largely service providers, so that's why they
That's right.
don't have to.
Yeah, their powers are very much limited.
Will there still be potentially regionalized high schools or middle schools that would be developed within these SUs?
They could be. We haven't gotten into that level of detail. We're just trying to do the math of it. The notion of regional high schools, and especially if we're moving toward trying to make as many of them comprehensive as we possibly can, that's a long-term challenge with new buildings and but so we didn't go there.
And do you know approximately how much money before the other changes like regional or merged districts this would save?
No, we haven't done any kind of a fiscal load yet.
Also, you mentioned BOCES. Do you envision shared services?
Well, certainly if you have the larger the unit, the closer you are almost to a BOCES. And you can do some of the same services almost within an SU, or a couple of 2 or 3 SUs can get together and put BOCES on top of it. That's what they want to do. Some of them may just decide to do those services themselves if they have enough scale. Right? Well, they may, 2 or 3 may get together.
Sort of, where is your committee on this proposal or others? What's the status of where things are?
Well, it's always we're in the middle of the process. We took some testimony yesterday. We're taking more testimony tomorrow. We had some time set aside just for school boards to come in and talk about any boundary adjustments that they think make sense, and working on language, and hope to have something that real language in front of the committee soon. So it's hard to, I would never predict where exactly, try to tell you exactly where the committee goes. So,
And they're coming in specifically on this proposal as opposed to anything else that's been proposed. Committee, any other questions? Just a reminder that the language and the map are both now up on our committee page as well. All right, so the target governance framework, 25 SUs managed by 25 superintendents. How many in the map? I guess does that take into account sort of what the gray part in the middle would evolve into?
yeah, I forget now. I think there's 23 SDs in that area, and it would get down to 12. So by the way, the numbers don't quite line up. They might be off by 1 or 2, but I know the idea is to get down to the 11 SUs, and I think it's 12 SDs within that gray area. That would be the half.
And no more than 11 SUs statewide. No more than 45 member school districts within those SUs. Okay,
Well, the language probably in the end won't cite 45, it'll say half, just by half.
yeah, I just sort of am doing the very crude math of 11 supervisory unions, 45 or 46 member school districts within that. Basically meaning, four school boards per SU, so some might be more. Anything else that you would like to highlight for us before we wrap up?
I don't think so. It's really, this map evolved from readings of testimony. I'll say that. Yeah, a lot of testimony, especially from rural Vermont.
Any other questions from the committee? Thank you very much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Seth.
Natural resources.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna